Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome again to another episode of the Light 360 broadcasts. This is actually the first one we're going to be having this week. Yesterday was my mom's 70th birthday. So, in honor of her, I did not do anyone yesterday, but I'm excited to be back today. And for the rest of this week, I have some very amazing people that are going to be coming on the Light 360 broadcast. So, fasten your seatbelt and get ready for some inspiring time, some inspiring stories. So just wanted to take a few minutes to allow you joining us. Right now, we're streaming on Instagram. We're streaming on Facebook, on my 2 pages on Facebook. We're also streaming on Periscope on Twitter. So I want you to like, share, invite someone to come and join us in this conversation. Today is going to be great. I have somebody very, very dear to my wife and I, a person with a very great story that will be of influence to you. So I want you to just, join us, invite somebody, like the video. Thank you for those who are joining us. It's great, it's great. Let me just start by asking, how people are doing. If you're watching, joining us, I can actually see your comment if you comment. So if you want to just, let me know how you guys are doing, that's fine. If you don't want to do that, that's also fine. Just how are you doing? How is your week going? How is your August going? So, you can put it in the chat, in the comments on Facebook or any of those medium that you are using to watch us. So we're going to go right ahead without wasting much time. I'm going to introduce my guests for today. She is somebody that I've known for several years now. I remember the first time I saw her, and just how passionate she was about God, how passionate she was about life, about people, and very passionate, especially for Africa. When she was young, I think she's going to tell the story herself, so I won't jump the gun. When she was young, God spoke to her and put Africa in her heart, and that has been the driving passion of her life, and the things that she has done. She has a very, very interesting life story. And she was actually, one time, my personal assistant. She was also, one time the executive director at the City Light Church. She's worked in so many ways. She has worked in Light Development Center. She's also part of the cohort. I've forgotten what cohort, but she'll tell us, one of those cohorts of the Leading Lights training. And also, we have actually traveled together. We traveled to Africa. It was just great ministering in different nations together. She went to Moody Bible Institute. Go Moody. She has a heart for social work, counseling, anything that has to do with, getting people set and prepared for their destiny. She also has the anointing to link. She just knows she has resources, and she links people, cross-continentally, that's just one of the graces that God has given her, and we're going to talk a little more about that. She has an organization called Isubilo, which we will also talk about. So without wasting much time, let's bring on this wonderful person that everybody is just eager to meet. I want to bring on Ella Tomunokonbia. Yeah, I almost said Ella Lamey. It was
okay.
Time catches me. It takes getting used to. So I'm going to call you Ella Tam.
Okay.
Like Tam. That's how I have you saved in my phone, Ella Tam. How are you doing, Ella?
I'm doing great. And for the record, everyone calls me Mrs. T at my work.
Okay.
And even my work email and everything hasn't changed, so I'm still a minor in the in the system, but we're getting there. So
Okay.
yeah,
Awesome.
with the COVID and everything, it's a little bit hard to get to Secretary of State nowadays. But yeah.
Awesome. So tell us, a little bit about Ella. As you can see, I'm broadcasting from the office today, not in my studio, my normal studio. So I have in between meetings, I'm doing this. I just finished a meeting. I'm going to be getting on another meeting afterwards. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Ella. Who is Ella?
Well, I would say my name that came up in Leading Lights. I'm an empathetic lover and linking advocate. I love engaging with people from different cultures, ethnicities, backgrounds, and really hearing their story and propelling them forward in their God-given purpose.
Okay. So that's you went right at it. This is my purpose name. This is who I am. Tell us a little bit about who you are naturally. I'm the wife of Tam. I'm the,
Well, to start off, I live in Michigan now, so in the Great Lakes state, and life here is very calm and peaceful, and I like, being able to not have to deal with traffic and the stress of that. But I really miss the restaurants and the ethnic food that's found in Chicago. So yeah, Tom and I have been married since March 21. So we're newlyweds and enjoying it. Thank God for that. And we're having a baby in January, so we're thanking God for that additional blessing coming.
Isn't that exciting? Ella is having a baby. Yeah. Everything just happened so fast. Ella is married. Ella is having a baby. That is just so awesome. That's awesome. So how has it been? Getting married in the year of COVID. 2020.
I think it's been the best that could ever happen to a person. When you think about the cost involved in having like a elaborate wedding, I'm just grateful we didn't have to deal with that. We had 10 people in my parents' living room and had Simbo, Palomi, and all my close friends with my parents there. And as much as it was different, I think it really put us on a good footing to be able to really focus on what marriage is about. It's about living life together, loving God and loving one another and the community around us. And it was just really special because the week of, you were not able to come and do the ceremony because of the COVID, because Illinois had shut down.
Yeah.
So we started scrambling, trying to find someone that could do the officiation of the ceremony. And so one of our small group leaders is a pastor in the church, and he was able to officiate, over the ceremony. And it was very, it was just very natural. I didn't feel the nerves or feel pressure. I could just be myself. And I think it was very nice because that's how life should be. It shouldn't be pressured. It shouldn't be stressful. And that's real life, right? And I think for anyone that's thinking about getting married, just do it. You don't need to wait till you have a big celebration,
right?
party.
And save a lot of money, because next year, once everything opens up again, they're going to be spending a lot of money to get people, feed people, do all that. Awesome. So congratulations to you. I'm very proud of you. Just excited that, your dream, you wanted to marry a nice African man, great African man that you guys can serve God together. And I'm glad that, you guys are doing that. So proud of you and congratulations again. And the baby too, congratulations. I'm looking forward to meeting him or her, when he or she arrives. Praise God.
Yeah.
So Ella, so you started talking about the purpose, what you found out when you were in Leading Lights. right? When you did the leading light. Talk to me about the leading lights, how it was for you, and just your time in Chicago, at City Light and all that. Well, how was it for you?
Yeah, so before I answer that, I'm seeing a notification on this computer that my computer's about to die. Let me get the charger real quick.
No problem. You can get your charger.
Story. Thank you. Okay,
yeah. All right. So while Ella is getting a charger, those kind of technical things, they do happen. I see those of you, watching us Instagram and on Facebook. Please put in a comment there. Just let me know where you're watching from, or just tell me how you're doing. That would be awesome while we wait for Ella. So I believe that, by the time Ella begins to share just a story, what God has been doing in her life, you all are going to be inspired. And I think Ella is back right now. Are you back?
Back.
Okay, awesome.
So much.
Very good. All right. So yes, so I was leading light, your time in Chicago. How was it for you developmentally and all that?
It was transformative, having gone to Moody, I had a great foundation for theology, but like the leading lights took it to a new level where I could apply it very actively. And I'm the kind of person, I like to see things happen. I like to see progress. I like to see change. I like to see positive impact in the world. And so, attending the Leading Lights training was really exciting, especially being with a small group of people, because we could really share our hearts and what's, God is doing in our lives, as well as, share where we want to go.
Awesome. So I don't know how far we want to go backwards. Your life story.
Yeah. Right?
It's about inspiring people, talking about how God has worked in your life and how you now shine as a light. So do you want to go to the very beginning? Because you had a very interesting beginning. You want to share about that?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Well, I grew up in an adopted home. I was adopted to loving Christian parents, and they always, talked about Christ, went to church, very involved reading the Bible. And so God met me at a very young age in that environment. And I just thank God for capturing my heart when I was young, because I'm a very passionate person. And I know that if God hadn't, captured my heart at a young age with his love, I think I could be doing very different things. And that would look very different. Okay. And I thank God for that. So when I was 5 years old, I just remember clearly, as if it was yesterday, God speaking to me and what I believe to be like an audible voice. That was the first time I had heard the Holy Spirit speaking to me. And he said, Ella, you're going to be a missionary to Africa one day. And I'm so glad he spoke to me so clearly. Okay. And so I would just say to each of you, if God speaks to you, if he says a word, hold on to it. It might not be for that time or that place or that season, but God may reveal it. And it's taken 20, 25 years for me to get to that point where God has revealed himself.
Okay, let's go back a little bit and talk about the adoption thing, because I think it's something that could help people. Somebody can be watching this or will watch this who is adopted. How does it feel? I mean, how did you, I don't know, is it process, because we were very young, but tell me how it felt when you found out that you were adopted and how it feels now.
Yeah, I think it has been a great blessing. I would say to any person that's looking to adopt or do foster care, do it, because you're never too old. My parents were 52 when they started doing foster care with me, and it just transformed my whole life. Their presence and their involvement, and being able to say, we may not be the youngest couple, but we're going to try and see how we can impact this person's life. And so, like, being in the foster care system until I was 2, I don't really have any recollections. But then being able to bond with my birth father when I was about 19 years old and able to meet him for the first time was pretty exciting. And I would just say to any prospective parent that's looking to do adoption, foster care, do it. You're not going to regret it. And as long as you're truthful to that child, as long as you're acknowledging that you do have a mom and dad that are somewhere else and they love you just as much as we do, I think that truthfulness is very important.
Okay.
You know, versus like hiding it from the child.
Yeah. They should not hide it. Did you
Yeah.
ever feel abandoned? Like when you thought about your birth parent, did you ever feel like why did they give me away?
I remember distinctly one time crying in my room about it. I was probably 5 or 6. But I think just knowing the love that I felt from my family, I knew that my birth parents didn't have that love for me. And I think my adoptive parents being like, you know, they didn't love you as much. They weren't as involved. And just being very clear in a simple way that, you know, you were taken to be in a safer environment.
Yeah. I know I think I heard your dad telling me the story one time that your survivor was a miracle.
Yeah.
Like that. You were very very small or something like that. I know you told me that story, but for some reason I've forgotten it.
Oh wow. You remembered a lot. So I was 13 weeks premature along with my sister Elise. You know, I was 2 pounds 7 ounces.
That was your twin sister, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was probably due to my mother's drinking and drug, you know, usage. So but I'm just, you know, so grateful. I was a fighter, and I think God could see that in me, and it's still there.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful that, you know, God gave me a chance to live on this earth and to glorify Him.
Yeah. I mean, you're a fighter, and I mean, surviving that and, you know, all the things that you've had to go through and all that, it shows that God definitely has something for you. He has something for you that He wants you to do on the earth, because people that go through that, a lot of people don't survive it, right? You survived the birth stuff, then you survived, you know, like you were adopted into good parents, you know, to a Christian home and all that has led to what you are now and what you do right now. I think that's something to really give thanks to God for. So quickly, you know, speak to somebody who is watching, who might feel like there's something wrong with their birth, their background, they feel abandoned or whatever. Can you speak some hope to them based on your own experience?
Yeah, I would just say that God can turn every mess into a message, and that's something that Pastor Lan always encourages us in. That don't let your current or your past situation define what's the future is going to hold for you. And I think that was very hopeful for me, because I had never heard that before coming, you know, to City Light, before you know, being able to be under the teaching of Pastor Lan. So God has a story that He's writing, and everything might not be revealed immediately, but just wait. And I think that's one thing I wish I could tell my younger self: just be patient. Like, don't jump to conclusions. Don't assume that God doesn't love you just because you're going through this hard time. God's with you in that and is building that character that will sustain you long term.
Wow, very good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So let's go back to the vision of Africa. So from when you were young, how did you come to know about Africa? You were going to the continent or what?
Well, I actually, when I was in high school, I had another encounter with God after coming to know Him at age 5. And I was active in youth group, and we went on a mission trip to Chicago. We served at By the Hand Club for Kids.
Can you imagine? At what age?
I think it was 10th grade or something.
Wow.
11th grade.
Wow.
Yeah. And we also went to the downtown mission, and we served in the soup kitchen there.
Pacific Garden.
Yes, it was amazing opportunity. And then we also did open air evangelism, kind of sharing the gospel with people on the streets and giving them food.
Okay.
So from that, experience while I was there, I remember we were driving on the highway, leaving the city, and God spoke to me again and said, I have a plan for you in Africa. I have a plan for you specifically in Uganda, in Zambia, like East Africa. And I just didn't know how to take it. Like when you hear a very direct word from God, you think, am I dreaming? Am I seeing things? Like, is this real? But I remember carrying it with me in my heart. And I remember saying, I'm going to Zambia, I'm going to Uganda, I'm going to make an impact, and specifically with children, like working with orphans and widows. And I remember sharing it with my parents, and they're like, okay, that's what you want to do, and so they encouraged me to go to Moody because, Moody provides you with a great grounding, great foundation, as well as those ministry opportunities. So upon hearing, the call from God, I just knew that God wasn't just calling me to impact Africa as a missionary, maybe with an agency, but really to start my own initiative. And so I would say to anyone that's looking to start something, first make sure you hear clearly from God. We can have a lot of passion, we can have a lot of purpose, but if they're not correctly aligned with God's vision for us, it can go awry. So I would just say make sure you test the waters. Test your methods, and make sure you have the right resources in place. And I'll be honest, I had to learn the hard way.
Tell us about that. Because, some of the best lessons that people they get from us is not in our successes, it's in our like when you are sharing your stories, you share your victories. So courage. But people really, what I've discovered in preaching and talking, that people learn a lot more when you are transparent and you show them where you failed. So that's more powerful. So what how did you jump the gun, or
yeah, I would say I was fueled by passion, but not with like divine vision, if that makes sense. I had some of the tools, but not all the resources in the right order. Right? I had the idea that, I'm going to go to Africa and I'm going to make an impact. These are the people I want to help. This is how I want to help. I had those things nailed down, but the avenue through which I went was probably not the healthiest. So this is probably fast forward to my sophomore year of college. I have a great friend who we are still friends today. She connected me with someone who is doing work in Nigeria, and the person was passionate about working with people with disabilities, but they had a corrupt motive. And I would just say that if you have a pure heart like me, I just think in black and white type of construct. I think one thing God is developing me is the wisdom to read people and really to be able to see people's hearts, because people can hide their motive, so easily, and the enemy can really capitalize on that if you're not careful. But
Jesus said it this way. He said, "Behold, I send you forth as sheep among wolves. Therefore, wise as serpents and harmless as doves." So Jesus warned us that even this mission that I'm sending you on, the people you are going to meet, some of them have the intention of actually using you. They have the intention of harming you. So you got to be careful. Go ahead.
So I went to Nigeria to meet this individual who was working with special needs kids in Jos, Nigeria, with a school, a special needs school. And I was super excited to be able to impact lives, be there. This guy was a male. I was not anywhere interested in him. I was not interested in any type of relationship besides strictly ministry. Like, I just need to connect with someone so that I can do this volunteer work and make the world better, And so I got to Lagos, and my bags were full of like children's ministry materials that were donated to me, and gifts and other things. And I got there and it wasn't as I expected. You hear the stories of 419. I mean, this was like the story. Like, the guy said my phone would work. It didn't work, you know.
Oh my God, Nigeria, you know.
He was like, yeah, let me keep your passport so it's safe. You know, let me take your money so you don't have to worry about the family that I was staying with taking the money, you know. Just a lot of craziness, you know. I think if I had been like well situated and like at least had one day to get off jet lag, I think I would have had a more clear head to be like, hey, like I can take care of myself. I'm okay. So the family I stayed with was great. Don't get me wrong, but this guy was just out of place and not he wasn't in following the spirit. So I thank God though, you know, through that at time, one of the people I was staying with, she does like Bible club ministry all across the Lagos area in different schools. And she had prayed to God for 5 years for ministry materials. And I brought like probably like 2 years worth of Bible curriculum. Like this is like gospel project for kids. So it's a very good, you know, very theologically based program. And I was able to give that to her, which she's still using today, you know. But then in the mix, there's this guy has this ulterior motive, and I just thank God for giving me grace in a time that was very scary, right? And I think God will give you that
foreign land, right?
Yeah. And I believe God will give you that grace and that strength whenever you're facing something that's difficult. I just remember, you know, like it went from, you know, emotional abuse to verbal abuse to physical abuse. But all in that time, you know, I thank God because I was very much like, you know, I'm here on mission. God has me here. Nothing's going to stop me. You know, I'm going to fulfill my purpose. And I thank God. I know a lot of people would be like, why can you thank God if this, and this went wrong? And I'm like, there's always a silver lining. God always has something for you to see if you look closely enough.
Yeah.
Right. And I just remember the Holy Spirit giving me words to say to that person, like strength that came that wasn't my own strength. You know, and I thank God because, you know, this family, the one that does the Bible studies, is still being impacted. And they still stay in touch. And she's like, you know, you positively affected my life. And I was like, I did? You know? And then through the course of my being there, I got really sick. And that was really scary for me because, like, loss of control of finances, environment, anything that could have had a say in what I was doing, you know, was taken from me, including, like, the guy was just so controlling. He wouldn't even let me take a cup of coffee. So I thank God because looking back, I think I can relate to a lot of women that have experienced abuse and neglect. I thank God that he had me there for a season to be able to taste and to see, but then also to be able to have like the glasses to be able to see that my pain was only temporary, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And just being able to, you know, come back to the US, being able to go to counseling, get the help I needed to be able to mend my heart. And now being able to be, you know, a social worker, a counselor that can very much relate to like the things that people go through when they've experienced that kind of hurt.
Very good. How long were you there for?
I was there 3 weeks. I was supposed to be there like, I think 90 days, but because I was sick, you know, thankfully I was able to eventually get home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just thank God.
All that took place in the space of 3 weeks.
Yeah. Wow. So, you know, and I think one thing God also gave me in that situation, maybe some people would say that wasn't wise of me, but I remember I told the guy, I said, take my money. when I was leaving, I said, take the rest of this money. I don't need it. But don't do what you did to me to other people. Don't do it to women. You know, I even told him, you need to read the book Love and Respect. And just like, you know, I think God just gave me, like, you don't curse someone just because they curse you. You bless those who, you know, even if they curse you. And I think the Beatitudes became a real, you know, a real reality in my life through that.
And this person is still alive now?
I don't know how they're doing, but, you know, I trust that God can use, you know, our misunderstandings. God can use our situations. God can use our past experiences to reshape us. And I believe, I'm confident that God can even repair his heart, because I think anyone that abuses anyone for anything is because they've been hurt, right? And they're dealing with the wounds of their pain, and they haven't healed.
Hurt people, like they say. Awesome. So that was a dark episode of your life, but you took some lessons from it. What were your lessons from that experience?
I would just say, you know, passion is great, but there's going to be people that come along your path to divert you. You need to make sure you're grounded, right? Grounded in the Word of God, grounded in truth, grounded in the realities of, this is what I want, this is where I'm going. Also having the accountability. I think that's one thing I lacked, you know, sadly. Like, there was not a lot of people that supported me even after I came back from Nigeria, because they were like, you had a horrible experience, you should be filing complaint, getting this person in jail. And I'm like, at the end of the day, in Nigeria, there's nothing you can do. I'm so like, God, take care of this person. I mean, for any means, if anyone's getting
in Nigeria, there are some things you can do in Nigeria. You know, okay.
But, you know, for any means, if anyone is ever experiencing abuse and neglect, get out. Don't let it overwhelm you. Get help. You know, there are toll-free call lines you can call a friend. You know, get to a safe place. You know, that's very important.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, that's very transparent, and I'm sure that's, you know, that has helped somebody, you know, because you don't know who is watching, who is listening. They've gone through something. It might not be exactly what you went through, but something very similar, and they are dealing with it right now, and they see you.
I would just say that the response that hurt the most was not, you know, the response of the abuser. It was the people in the church that were responding to the abuse that happened. You know, they're like, why, if a Nigerian is abusing you, why would you want to go back to an African church? Why would you want to associate yourself with any culture that's relatively, you know, similar in culture? And my response was, I don't want one situation to dominate my experience. And so I tried to desensitize myself from that traumatic experience. Besides getting counseling, you know, besides spending time looking up Bible verses that could console me, I also found a community of people that looked different than me, but their hearts were the same, you know? And I just thank God for leading me to City Light. You know, I thank God for, you know, just the impact that this church has had on my life and on our generation. I would say, with my kid coming, like, there's so much truth and so much good things that have come out of me stepping out of my comfort zone.
The way my kid coming, just, you know, become a grandfather, you know, because Ella is like my kid, you know. I just like, say my kid coming, I'm like, Ella, okay.
Yeah. So I would just say, you know, step out of your comfort zone. Just because someone is telling you something, it doesn't mean that that is what you need to do. And I think before I made this decision to join City Light, I prayed about it. I visited, I checked it out, because I was like, I want to protect myself still, but I know that God has a passion for Africa in my heart. You know, I know I'm planted in Africa for a purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let the devil take what he's already tried to steal, because he's going to try, but he's not going to be able to steal, kill, and destroy, because I'm his child.
And that's so powerful. You never quit. You didn't quit. You had a very terrible experience. You know that God has called you to Africa. You went to Africa for the first time, and then you had this terrible experience, and you come back and, broken and all that, had to mend with God and everything, but you still said, no, I'm not going to let this stop me. I know what God has called me to do. And you continue moving on. I think that's something that everybody watching should help. No matter what has happened in your life, no matter what has taken place in your life, don't let that thing derail you from the call of God. We say this thing in the leading light, that God doesn't waste your pains, right? God doesn't waste your pains. He uses your stories, everything that you have gone through, he turns it into ministry to other people. God turns our misery into ministry. He turns our pain into gain. He turns our story into glory. So let's move beyond the pain now. Let's move beyond that, and let's talk about what began to happen in your life. So you come to City Light, you come to Leading Light, and then what began to happen?
I feel like I came to life, like in a new way. Just being able to have a purpose and a plan with regards to my passion, being able to fuel my passion through a real educated plan was really very helpful for me. And just being able to have accountability. I put a couple mentors in place in my life. I began having small groups, and just being able to have that. We talked about leadership in one of the small groups, and just being able to put things in order in my life. I think there was a lot of disorder, and so being able to have structure, in my life, helped me to be able to become that successful person, to be able to have a dream and a vision and run with it in God's appointed time.
Man, very good. So after Leading Light, or during the Leading Light, so for the Leading Light, you have to do a portfolio, right? And in which you have to start an initiative or join an initiative, something that is in line with your purpose. So I remember after then you came to me and told me about Isubilo. Tell us a bit about Isubilo. What is it about?
So it means hope in the Bimba Zambian language. It's really to empower national leaders for kingdom service, specifically in the areas of empowering youth, children, and widows and orphans. And so my vision is to see national leaders, people of their culture, of their community, raised up, empowered, strengthened through prayer, through resources, through encouragement, through programs, so that the kingdom of God can advance. Okay. So this looks like, for example, sewing training programs for women in Zambia. This looks like, hosting soccer camps so that youth can be ministered to, like in the middle of the soccer tournament, maybe doing like a 10-minute devotional just to lift their spirits and help them to continue to, feed their soul. It looks like, eventually doing like an orphanage that is very self-sustaining and focused around community families, where nationals will take care of the children and ensure that they're well taken care of, where they have a mom and a dad that will be invested in them and help them to live an impactful life.
Very good, very good. So how has it been? Like, you started it. I know you have a partner in Zambia, right? And I think he's watching. I think I saw from Zambia. Yeah. So tell us what's been going on with that since you started it.
Yeah, so I think for me, it's just about time and season still. We are doing something right now in Uganda. We haven't really unleashed everything, unveiled everything, but we are working on an agriculture project there. As for Zambia, I would like to see, the women be able to get some sewing machines so they can practice what they've been learning. We are working on registering the nonprofit in the next year. But we really want to go first initially and be on ground and like see everything going on, make sure that the needs are being met as well as the leaders are being trained and encouraged. One of the things that we did initially is we had the people that were in Zambia and Tanzania and Uganda, they all took the Leading Lights training so we could all kind of be on the same page. Because I think it's really important that when you do something, you do it well, excuse me, and with the right company, right? Yeah. And for that, you got to be trained and equipped together. So I think that has been helpful for each of us. You know, we all have our own individual lives. We have our own individual missions, even within supporting Isubilo. But I think God is going to continue to bless the ministry. I think specifically as my husband has an amazing story, which I'm sure you'll hear about at some point through this.
It will come in on one of these, in the comment. Yeah.
But I think his story is just so powerful, and I think that gives me momentum and encouragement to keep going and to keep fighting for these kids who otherwise would be living on the streets, eating out of the garbage, and having no hope. Yeah. And I just want to see lives transformed, even if it's one kid that has a purpose. And I know that some of these people have already been encouraged. There's one lady, she took our sewing class in Zambia. She then took the Leading Lights training. Now she's in another country and being very successful just because we gave her that little push to find herself, push to be able to realize the gifts and resources that God has already placed in her hand. And I think that is something that we want to continue to do with all the people that we support.
Very good. Excellent. So you had a bad experience going to Africa for the first time. The second time you were going to Africa, we went together. How was that for you?
It was great. I loved the company, I enjoyed the people, I enjoyed the comfort, being in a nice hotel and good food.
It wasn't as much suffering as the
no. And I just like that we were prepared, unlike how my first experience was, very unprepared. Yeah. And I just am grateful that I went with such knowledgeable people that know the culture even more than I do, who can tell me the truth if someone is bluffing and not being themselves. Like, you're able to determine those things because you live in the culture, you understand how people communicate, you understand the cultural norms of what's expected, and you're able to help me, who is still getting there, who's still growing and learning about the culture and how to impact people for Christ.
Yeah. So what will you tell somebody, so from just what we have talked about right now, so like the new spring of your ministry to Africa and all that, and going and all that, what will you tell people, somebody who is thinking of doing what you're doing, or even generally in their calling, about the importance of relationships, mentorship, accountability, all these kind of things that God brought around your life, and you are still underneath it, right? That brought around your life to protect that mission. Well, what would you say to them? Yeah.
I would say first, look at the virtues that you want God to develop in you. That's something that was powerful in the Leading Lights training. We had to determine what values, what characteristics we want God to be bringing into our lives. And I think that's a great starting point. Start with yourself. Start with what you need to work on so you can be that more equipped person for God's work. And then, start stepping out, find 10 people that can pray for you. Maybe 10 people that can pray for you in general. You don't need to give all the details about what you want to do, because there's going to be some people that are just going to be like, that's not going to work. There's going to be people that are going to bring their biases, their perspective, their failed experiences and put it on you. So I would just say, find 10 people that can pray for you in general. Say, hey, I have a passion that I'm passionate about. Can you be praying for me that God would direct me, give me wisdom, and connect me with the right people? Then maybe 5 of those people you can share with. If it's your spouse, a close friend that you feel comfortable sharing the vision with, mentor, and then maybe just 2 other people from your church or community that can just give you that support when you're feeling down.
Very good. Very, very good. So let's go into another part of your life now. So you recently got married.
Yeah.
But you went through the journey of searching for a mate, right? That fitted, the calling of God on your life, that you guys could work together. Now, some single people may be watching now. What will you tell them about the journey? How will you advise them through your own on how to find a mate, a partner of purpose?
I remember so clearly, since I was young, I said, God, I want to work in Africa. And from the time I was in high school, I determined I'm going to marry an African. Like, I just made my mind up. And that transformed into my vision board, having pictures of, biracial marriages. And that transformed into just making sure my company of people that were around me were what I wanted, I would just say that for anyone that's looking to be in a relationship, really know what's in your heart, know what your core values are. To be honest, I was in a relationship before meeting Tom, and it was great. But the thing was, our values weren't aligned. Know what your vision is, know what your 5-year, 10-year goals are before you even start dating someone. Because once you start dating that person, they're going to start trying to take you on their journey. So you need to be able to know what your journey is and what God has called you to. So when you meet that person, you're able to join each other on that journey.
Very good. Very good. So more, any other advice for single people?
Well, I would just say, when I met Tom, I knew that he was the person because I said, who are you and what do you do? He said, oh, I work with people with Alzheimer's and dementia. And I was like, wow, this is a very compassionate person, a lot of patience. I need someone who's patient.
That's what he used,
Yeah.
I work with Alzheimer's. We were in love, You guys can see that now. You know how to do it,
Yeah.
Tell the lady you go to the homeless shelter, you volunteer, you rescue dogs at cats.
And when he said that I want to go back to Africa, I knew he was a special person. I didn't know what role he would play in my life, but I was like, I want this person in my corner. I want this person to be in, close proximity, whether it's friendship, whether it's a relationship. I don't really care. Just, God direct my steps. And I think, when I entered into a relationship with him, not everyone was happy. A lot of people were skeptical. I was even skeptical. I was unsure. I remember having many conversations with Peace and Pastor Lamb being like, I don't know if this is going to work out. We're so different, but I think the thing that brought us together and kept us together was our solidified vision for Africa. And having that as a core foundation, besides love for God, I think that's what kind of made it very clear to me. This guy might not have it all together in what I think the person should, how they should be, but I think God is making us into the people he wants us to be. And I think that has been a phenomenal journey. I am so grateful. There's not a day that doesn't go by that I'm thinking, oh, I wish I would have married someone else. No, I feel so content. I would just say that when you're in the perfect will of God, there may be things around it that look not perfect, but trust the Holy Spirit to align your steps, have that accountability. And it's not going to be easy. There's going to be some hard days. But know that God has your back. And just be honest with what your heart wants, and I'm just so grateful for him. And he just has a big passion for Africa, a big passion for the orphans, because he himself was an orphan. And I think that makes our marriage and our focus in ministry even stronger together.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, how has it been? Interracial marriage. The second person I'm bringing on, with an interracial marriage. I had Megan on last week. How?
It's good. I would just say communicate, communicate, communicate. A lot of times I get upset at Tom. It's because the words he uses are in British English versus American English. So things sound a lot stronger, sometimes exclamations you may say that are just normal. It sounds very forceful to my ears. I'm like, what are you saying? Am I doing something wrong? So I think that's been very good. I think because we were in relationship for like 3 years, we really got to see each other from a distance as well as up close with accountability. And I think that helped us for me to be able to study him. And like he says, he's always studying me and learning about me and how he can communicate better with me and how I can, appreciate him.
Awesome.
So, yeah, and then just being very clear on our expectations of each other, right? Like we basically have divided up all the house responsibilities, just like saying, okay, this is what I'm committing to for this amount of time, and being willing to be flexible. We share everything in regards to finances, we just have intentional conversation every day to make sure that we're on the same page, with our schedules, with our finances, with our responsibilities for the day, so there's no miscommunication.
Very good. Very good. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So let's switch on. So you're now expecting a baby. So that came into the mix. How people tell you your life is going to change when you get married, right? Then they say your life is going to change when you have a baby, right? So you have two changes coming your way, or two changes happening at the same time. How have you processed that? And we had coronavirus and all. How have you been processing that?
I'm just so grateful for Tom because he told me something. He was like, Ella, it's never a right time to have a child. And people are going to bring their opinions about when you should have your child, right? And I'll be honest, I'm the kind of person that I'm easily swayed to what other people say. And God is helping me to like really determine my own decisions about things. But I think, for a while I was like, I don't know if I really even want to have a kid for like 2 years, because that's just what every American does, right? But then I realized, God has a purpose, right? And this child will bring, God's purpose and plans into being, and why should I stop it based on my own comfort or what's comfortable, right? I love children, so does he, but I kind of am more like, well, maybe in 2 years when it's comfortable and it's a good time frame and when it fits into my schedule, then I can be a mom. But I'm just so grateful that he kind of changed my thinking. And I would just challenge you to let other people challenge what you believe about things. And, have an open mind when it comes to making decisions, whether it's about school, a job, whether it's about your family. Allow people that God has given you to be that truth, and to be able to speak a word in season to your heart. Sometimes it's hard. Like I probably cried about it. Like
I made you cry on occasions too.
Right. Truth hurts, but it's also a great place for growth to occur.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful. I'm very excited for our baby, and then everyone comes to you and says, oh, what are you gonna do after the baby's born, this and this and this. And I just appreciate how Tom was able to come into the conversation and just say, peace be still, just let life happen and let God take control. Instead of you, Ella, trying to like make things happen and figure out how everything's going to work out, God has brought this baby into the world, so he's going to give you the grace and, the strength to be able to raise this child up in the way she should go.
Very good. So that question came to my mind. So we worked together. You worked with me for maybe 2 or 3 years. That's why I remember. How was it? I was bad, good, great. Tell me now publicly. What was your experience? What did you pick up and all that? Yeah.
I'm just so grateful for the opportunity. I think it's a major reason for why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Just a lot of what I would do in everyday work would be like coordinating with people in Africa, coordinating trips and flights, and making sure things were arranged well so that the ministry could go on successfully. And I'm just grateful because it taught me a lot of, discipline, time management, as well as flexibility. In ministry, it's so different than a 9-to-5 job because you can't just turn it off. You can't just turn off your phone. You can't just turn off your computer. You might try when you have like a respite day or something like that, but people are always having spiritual needs and physical needs that need to be met. And so I think I would just say to those who are looking to do ministry, if you have an opportunity, do an internship, do a season of ministry, because it's just it changes the way you think about people and how you can impact them. Their needs are different than a business or a organization, and I think just meeting people where they're at and being that lifeline, the church is crucial to be able to help people maintain their lifestyle and also to be able to maintain their purpose.
Yeah, very good. Well, let me give you feedback since you refused to give me feedback. I think you were an awesome assistant, and I'm very grateful. We just got kicked off Instagram, but that's okay. Where we have expired our time on Instagram, but we're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, So I just wanted to say that you were an awesome assistant. You very good. Sometimes you went farther than farther than I was ready to go yet. You did so many things, you put so many things together, so many relationships. And when you picked up anything, you went with it, with everything that you got, and you got it done. So I would say I would recommend you anywhere, anytime.
Thank you. Yeah.
Very well. You did very well. So, and I'm proud of you for the new phase of life that you are in right now.
Yeah. And I appreciate the challenge. You really pushed me beyond my comfort zone. Specifically using all those apps and different like technology, like that before meeting you, I didn't know all those, ways to communicate and things like that. So I'm just grateful because even now in my job, we use Microsoft, Teams and everything. And I feel comfortable because you pushed me out of my comfort zone, enable me to use those different platforms to help organize things. So
yeah, very good. And we, you entered into the heart of so many people.
Oh.
Like I remember my Pastor Sam last time. I was like, "Where's Ella?"
Wow.
I said, "Oh yeah, Ella is currently in Michigan," and I said, "Okay, all right." So you really, you entered into a lot of people's hearts through your service, and I just wanted to encourage you to keep that going. Keep that going.
Yeah, thank you.
God has a great plan for you, and that plan will be fulfilled. We're rooting for you. We're behind you.
Amen. Thank you.
So tell me, about what's next now? As we begin to round up, what's next?
Yeah, well, I'm starting graduate school next week for a master's in social work with a focus on healthcare. I'm excited and just really ready for the next season. People are like, "Oh, can you handle having a baby in school?" I'm like, "Yes." It just helps you to be able to focus, right? When you put something in front of you and go for it, it enables you to be able to get to the next level of what God has for you.
Very good. Very good. So What does God have for you next? What are you working on next now?
Working on developing, this ministry initiative in Uganda, working on, with Zambia, just developing those initiatives, as well as, building community at our home church here in Michigan. Just, we have a small group and we meet with them on Sundays, which is awesome. And just building that community there. I really would like to do something in Grand Rapids, with youth. But I'm just praying to God for the right season. I feel that seasons are going to shift for me again soon, to more ministry. I really feel burdened, like, to get back into full-time ministry. But I know with the baby coming, I also have priorities. So I'm putting it in God's hands and just saying, God, you know my heart, but I know that God will train you and position you for where he has you go next. And if you go ahead of him, you're not going to be ready for the next challenge.
Very good. Wise words. So, last words for those who are watching. You have something on your mind, a message you've been trying to preach. Just preach it now. What do you want to say to people who are watching? It could be on any subject, any topic, what God has put in your mind.
Yeah, I would just say that this is a season to really dig deep into who you are and to let it expand, let it flow. It doesn't mean that you might not have all the money together, all the resources. Do what you can. Even if it's $10 here, you're going to save it, invest it, put that little work in on the side. A lot of times I've been spending time researching, doing a lot of work on social work topics and trying to really develop myself so that I can be the best person that God has called me to be as a social worker. So I would just say for you, what God has placed in your hand, don't worry about when it will multiply, but just start sowing that seed, giving that tithe, knowing that God will bless even 100-fold from your heart. God sees our hearts, and he is very concerned about, our hearts, and if it's a, good ground for him to work. So I would just say, test your heart. And even for me right now, there's a lot of things that God is, character things that God is like, Ella, you got to stop that. Like, you got to replace it with this. I'll be honest. And one thing God has also been speaking to me is like my devotional life. I'll be honest, it wasn't very consistent. And one thing that God has really captivated my heart is if you're going to follow me, if you're going to walk in my ways, really know my love for you, Ella. Know the passion that you have been given by me. Now run with it because you know the word of God. When you have the truth, then you can speak it, right? But if you don't have the truth of God's word in your heart, you're just going to come up with personal opinion, right? Yeah. So I think that's something that God has really been speaking to me. And I would just say, hear the voice of God, listen to him, and follow him in season, and know that even if you're excited for the next season, God is still preparing the grounds for the people that you're going to minister to. God is preparing the resources. God is preparing the opportunities. So be patient.
Very good. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ella, for sharing. I hope you guys have been encouraged by the story of this wonderful woman. Started life, barely surviving, born prematurely, adopted, and then raised up by nurturing parents, discovered God at a young age, and then found out that she was called to reach people that are totally unlike her, called to reach people in Africa, been following God since then. Took a trip to Africa. She felt like she didn't do it the best way. She experienced some dark days, but she never quit. She continued, and then God led her into a company of people, City Light Church, did the leading lights training, learned things, developed relationships. God, building different structures and systems in her life. We took a trip to Africa together, again, back to that same continent, built some relationships there. And in that process of building, also, she met her future spouse, began to pray together. She went through different kinds of, wrestling regarding the eventually they went to, wrestling together, and then they eventually got married. They're expecting a kid right now, and they are building up and preparing for what God has called them to do in life. So thank you, Ella, for sharing your story. I'm glad that, we have a little part to play in your story. It's one of my greatest joy that, in people's stories, that there's a part that God allows me, also be able to, to play a little part in there. So I'm so excited that we got to meet, and I'm so excited for what God has in store. So the story continues, the journey continues, and we'll be telling more stories, after this. But I want to thank you for coming. And I want to thank everybody that joined us or that will be joining us, watching this thing too later, because it will remain available on the pages. Thank you for joining us on Instagram, YouTube, on Twitter, Periscope, and on Facebook. I want to thank you for joining us. I look forward to another exciting Light 360 tomorrow. I'll be back 2 p.m. Central again tomorrow with another interesting story. And we'll keep just hearing this story. I hope you have been activated. I hope you got something, from what we shared today. So thank you, Ella. Thank you, everybody. We're going to be signing off now. And we will see you again tomorrow. Thank you, and God bless you. All right, some people are posting, I guess, well, if you want to appreciate Ella, you can put it in there. We'll see it. Even when we are offline, if you put it there, we will see it, and, she'll be able to see it. But we're going to sign off right now. God bless you, and thank you for joining us. I'll see you tomorrow.